Hello. I think we're rolling. I just installed, I just updated my system today, and I keep getting notifications that people can peer in and on my camera now and record. They've been doing this for a while without people knowing it. So I don't know if that camera light only comes on when I activate this or not. Anyway, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tammy, and a couple questions that I've just been thinking about because while I'm working on some stuff, and I'm really excited about it actually. But my question is, why are we working so hard to control the body? Because what I'm doing actually is I'm looking to launch um, a supplement, a powdered supplement, superfood supplement that will actually help stabilize the stress response. And it's a nutritional supplement, it's not an oil. Um, but in part of doing this, I got to take a look at what's out there. And one of the biggest things that I'm seeing besides, fat burners and, muscle development and so forth, is there's a growing market in the area of estrogen blockers. And I know I've talked a lot about that here, the importance of watching our exposure to, oh my goodness, watching our exposure to things that act like estrogen in the body. Uh, but that's about as far as I've ever gone. And I have actually pointed out, that there's certain oils that will act like estrogen in the body. Now, the thing is with estrogen, it's in both men and women's bodies. It is both a reproductive as well as stress hormone. And if you're deficient in it in some ways, you have these issues. If you have too much of it, then you have these issues. And we already know that more men, or there's a growing number of men rather, that are experiencing ED, and low testosterone. It's not uncommon to hear people say that as men age, their testosterone levels drop. But when I sit here and I look at all of it and I kind of like start to open up all these windows and just kind of examine what's going on and what can lead to what, it's all comes down to hormonal instability. That's what it comes down to, is hormonal instability. And for a while now, and I'm actually working on a piece that on how to safely, I guess you want to say, block it. I don't necessarily, I'm not looking to block it, but to reduce the production of, to stabilize the production of estrogen. That's what I want to say, is to stabilize the production of estrogen. Years ago, I got involved with a genomic specialist and his colleague who had been working in, she was a physician in women's health for over 20 years. And I had said to her at that point, and this was about 7 years ago, I actually said to her that if, when I work with people, if somebody, comes in and they start talking about this hormone or that hormone, I just work with the whole hormonal system. My target is endocrine. It is not, let's go control that one chemical. And when you talk about blocking estrogen, generally we're looking at aromatase inhibitors if we're talking about supplements. And what's interesting to me is even when I went in for my breast cancer surgery, the consults that I'd had with the nurse practitioner and so forth was very intriguing because she started coming out with a list of things I could be doing nutritionally as aromatase inhibitors. And this is kind of what was the catalyst for why I've taken everything in the direction that I have these last 6 months. Because, in my opinion, if the body's producing aromatase, there's a reason for it. If you're new, you've never heard me say that. If you've been here, you probably have heard me say that. So, welcome to my world. If the body makes it, or it's made in nature, if it's found in nature, there's a reason for it. I mean, just like yesterday, I was this is like a little side note, but I was actually talking to somebody who has COPD, and come to find out he was actually a smoker. And one of the things that I do know is that when we exhale fully, Okay, it's not the inhale. It's the reason why people tell you to exhale, to breathe. Because think about it. If you're in front of somebody and somebody looks at you and they go, breathe, the first thing you do is you exhale. We just exhale because we realize at that point that we're actually holding our breath. Okay. So to take an in breath, you are signaling or sending signals to the sympathetic nervous system. When you take an exhale, you are notifying the parasympathetic nervous system that everything's okay. See, so but if you walk around like this all the time and you talk from here and you just kind of slowly exhale as you're breathing, as you're talking, you're never fully exhaling. So you're essentially taking little sips and giving out little sips and taking in sips. And so you're always, in many respects, activating that stress response. So it stands to reason that with COPD, they can't exhale. That's the whole point to it. They cannot fully empty their lungs. And again, when you're a smoker, and so I was talking to some people about the value, the medicinal value of nicotine or tobacco and the nicotine in there. And the nicotinic receptors are an acetylcholine receptor, and that's what actually helps to relax us. There's also the muscarinic receptors, and but those are also acetylcholine, but it's the combination of the two. And this is where the oils come in significantly, honestly, to help to relax that. But in the meantime, tobacco as a medicine, which it was for the longest time before it became a recreational substance, it has that ability to actually relax you and help you to breathe, which again, energetically, I find this fascinating because the lungs are part of the heart chakra. It's all about self-love. Oftentimes when you look at somebody who's been a smoker who is a smoker, chances are they're struggling with they're struggling with self-love on some level. And when we allow ourselves to calm down, we're actually nourishing ourselves. And we can take that exhale, we can take that deep breath. So I find it interesting that smokers, that's what they use to calm down. Okay, and I also find it very fascinating that people with emphysema and COPD cannot exhale. But the point of all of that was the nicotine in tobacco. And believe it or not, there's other plants that have nicotine in it, just not to the degree. Cauliflower even has nicotine in it, but not to the same degree as tobacco. So nicotine is not limited to tobacco, just for those of you who might be interested. So the benefits of nicotine, again, as I said, it actually helps to calm the system. That's in the human body. In the plant, it actually is a repellent. It is actually a toxic repellent that thwarts insects and so forth. So basically it's the plant's armor. It's its shield against invaders. So um, again, there's a purpose to producing nicotine, just like there's a purpose to producing salicylic acid. And it wasn't just to provide analgesic pills for us, it was actually to protect the plant again. So when it comes to aromatase, guess what, you guys? Aromatase is actually designed to protect us. Who knew? Doesn't thwart necessarily ticks and fleas and mosquitoes, but it does get us ready to protect ourselves. So aromatase is actually produced in the as in this sequence. And so again, if you've already heard me say this, please bear with me here. But when the body is being threatened, and it doesn't make any difference, okay? I can't say this enough. The body, or the DNA more specifically, cannot distinguish the difference between worry, doubt, self-hatred. It cannot, okay, so all that emotional messiness, it cannot distinguish the difference between emotional messiness and the house burning down, or, the potential for an accident, and like you've lost control of your car. Okay, it cannot distinguish the difference. The DNA responds to the information you are sending to it. It also responds to the information coming in from the environment. Okay, so with a shit ton of chemicals that we have in our environment, the DNA is in constant communication, and it's constantly signaling the production of oxidative stress, which then messages begins to trigger the production of inflammation. Well, actually starts to produce inflammation. Um, and there's a sequence that this goes about. Okay, so part of that is mast cell. One of the first ones, mast cells. This is gets complicated because everybody's genetic wiring is different. So this is really oversimplifying, but I'm trying to make a map here, kind of like in our mind's eye. Mast cells are released, are kind of sent out, which contain histamine. As the mast cells circulate throughout the body, histamine is released. Okay, histamine will then begin to notify. Gosh, guys, I'm sorry, my ear is just really itchy. Histamine will signal, start to send messages, or to continue to activate certain processes. In the process of all of that, cortisol now comes up. Okay, so cortisol is also yet another stress hormone. So the production of cortisol begins to increase in order to balance out the histamine, because cortisol actually has anti-inflammatory properties to it. Okay, so we have this balance going on, this little jiggly thing, right? Guess what comes next? You guessed it, aromatase. Aromatase, the body begins to produce aromatase in order to begin converting androgens into estrogen, in order to keep up the stress response, activate the autonomic nervous system, keep the immune system activated, and like I said, then depending on how it goes, with your genetic wiring, anything is possible. But that simple little bit of chemistry will knock down your testosterone completely. It jacks your estrogen levels. And again, it messes with everything because basically the body is on high alert. So the aromatase, again, has a purpose, and it is to keep the body on high alert. It is to keep us protected. It's a protection mechanism. Fascinating information. At least it is to me. So to go out and try to block aromatase, I wonder sometimes, do these people even know what they're talking about? And I don't mean any disrespect, but do we understand why we're producing aromatase? Okay, because if we actually understood, would we really want to go out and knock down our protection? Now, one of your better attempts at doing that is to slow down the production of aromatase would be, one, to check your mind. Get straight with your mind and your emotions. That would be the first step. Begin to take those deep breaths. Deliberately begin to take those deep breaths, because, like I said, it actually sends messages to the parasympathetic nervous system that everything is a-okay. All right, so those would be your first few steps, but to just deliberately and tell people that we need to go out and be just blocking or knocking down aromatase or inhibiting the production of it really doesn't make any sense to me, because there's a purpose to it, and part of it is our mind and our emotions. The other part of it is the environment. Okay, if we're producing too much estrogen and we're having a lot of estrogen like chemicals coming into the body from the environment, then we're not producing aromatase in the face of the environmental chemicals or the environmental, because, like I said, these chemicals that act like estrogen are total endocrine disruptors, so they'll continue to maintain that. So it's questionable as to, what's the point to doing the aromatase. The aromatase really is more or less responding to your mind, your emotions, and of course, again, the genetic wiring, because we can't disclude that. That is a factor as well. And it's not about about the body being defective. It's about the body being altered as a result of chronic emotional and mental distress. Okay. Not to mention chronic environmental distress that we are not getting an upper hand on. This is the reason why I recommend avoiding things that act like estrogen in the body. There is definite confirmation that these endocrine disruptors from the environment are leading to various health issues, including diabetes. Okay, because that is simply due to the fact that when the body is on chronic stress mode, it's no longer utilizing or fully breaking down the carbohydrates and proteins. Therefore, we have higher levels of glucose floating throughout the system, and then the body begins to feed on that or use that for energy. It's not being assimilated into the cells, so it's not really using it for energy. I just had a mental flip right there. I apologize, but we're not using it properly. It's stressful, larger than usable particles floating throughout the system will do what? It will activate the immune system. Now we have more histamine. And of course, there's already yeast growing in the body because we are a house for bacteria, virus, and yeast. So the yeast feeds on that sugar. So our cells aren't getting it, the yeast is getting it. And which happens now, we start to crave more carbs and sugar because the yeast is actually asking for it. In the meantime, we're causing our triglyceride levels to go up, and now we're starting to see higher levels of cholesterol. And we're beginning to see more obesity. And I did a video just recently, I talk about this a lot because at that point, cortisol going up also affects BDNF. The BDNF genetic receptor, which is a transcription factor used in neuroprotection, and I wrote about this too. And that link's in the box below, and I'm trying to think what else is. Oh, and then cortisol also slows down the vitamin D receptor, so it minimizes our use of vitamin D. So it's really advantageous for us to begin to really work on relieving that stress at the cellular level. I mean, being seriously deliberate about it, like making it like that should be our intention every single day. Yes, we've got stuff to do, but how can we deliberately chill the F out? How can we do that and help stabilize our body? Well, like I said, the deep breaths, the deep exhales, checking our mind and our emotions and letting ourselves know that we are okay. There couldn't be a more important time than now to begin doing that and to begin teaching our children that. Avoid estrogen, things that act like estrogen in the body, like oils and foods and so forth. That information is in that blog that I'm just finishing up. I don't necessarily recommend going for the aromatase inhibitors on an ongoing basis, but you can do things to reduce your histamine levels. You can do things to reduce your cortisol levels, meaning nutritionally. And you can, so yeah, actually that would be the two that I would go for. Histamine and cortisol. And occasionally throwing some type of, because all of that's going to actually thwart the excessive production of aromatase, okay? And using oils that actually help in that area too. Now that I've said all that, it's beneficial for both men and women to do this because, men need estrogen just like women, and we don't want to entirely block it. However, because of the chronic worry and doubt and the environmental factors that are influencing our epigenome, it is advantageous to include a food-like supplement, not a chemical, but a food-like supplement that will actually support the reduction of aromatase production. Just because even though we can get our mind and our emotions in check, it's not going to happen instantaneously. Okay, the body's going to continue to be overproducing it because we've been stuck in that mode. So there are certain oils that you can actually use to help begin to shift that and help protect you from that, as well as nutritional. And that's what I'm actually doing in this supplement. That said, it's not being packaged as of this moment by anybody. I'm in the process of negotiating contracts and so forth to having it packaged. But if you like a sample of it, let me know. I'm just thinking here because I hadn't thought of this until just this moment. $10 gives you shipping and the product for $10. And yeah, if you have any questions about that, contact me in my email below. And other than that, I hope you guys are well. But that's kind of my 2 cents on. There's no point in trying to directly control a specific chemical. We can work to stabilize the body. That's the advantage of having an awareness that we have. There's no sense in trying to control the body. to the degree that we're controlling very specific chemicals, because we will be at that point disrupting the rest of the system. Because as I said earlier, it's better to approach the entire endocrine system as opposed to singling out testosterone or estrogen or something along those lines. It's best to go for a whole system shift that will actually improve the way your body responds to your mind, emotions, and the environment. All right. So you guys take care. Thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you soon.